Hey there, friends. Thanks so much for being here. Your presence means the world. If you enjoy mythology, epic stories, and deep retellings, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you never miss a new adventure. The island kingdom of Argos basked beneath the noonday sun, its white marble walls gleaming like a beacon across the Aegean Sea. To travelers approaching its shores, Argos appeared serene, prosperous, blessed and enviable jewel of mortal civilization. But within the walls of its great citadel, behind the regal crimson banners that fluttered in the warm breeze, a current of unease stirred, subtle yet persistent, as though the very stones sensed the tremors of destiny gnawing at their foundations. For within this city lived a king who feared not war, nor famine, nor even the wrath of jealous gods, but a prophecy. And prophecy, as every mortal knew, was the one enemy a king could never kill. This king was Perseus, ruler of Argos, proud descendant of the heroic lineage of Danaos. His name carried weight across the lands. He was known as a man of strict judgment and strict discipline, unwavering in his decisions, unyielding in his rule. Yet beneath his veneer of authority lay an insecurity that clung to him like a shadow, an insecurity born from a single, devastating truth. Perseus had no son. There was, however, a daughter. Her name was Danae, and she was the beginning of the end. The Oracle of Delphi was a place where mortals went reluctantly, for though the Pythia spoke truth, truth itself was often a wound that could not heal. Perseus had gone there seeking comfort, seeking reassurance that a son would one day follow him on the throne. Instead, he received a revelation that shattered his world. His blood ran cold as the oracle's voice echoed through the temple chamber like wind rushing through a tomb. You shall never have a son, but your daughter shall. And through that daughter's son shall your death come. For a moment, the king could not breathe. The torchlight blurred. The incense thickened into suffocating fog. No. He whispered, as though he could repel the future by refusing to speak it aloud. There must be another way. The gods are cruel jesters. This cannot be the destiny of a king. But the oracle only gazed at him, her eyes clouded with a heavy knowing of divine truth. What is foretold cannot be undone. Perseus left the great temple with that sentence ringing in his ears. Though he had come down the sacred mountain physically unchanged, something fundamental within him had cracked. And through that crack seeped a fear that would shape the fate of generations. Danae grew into a woman of luminous beauty, golden-haired, soft-spoken, and gentle of spirit. But her gentleness only deepened Perseus's dread. The gods adored beautiful mortals, and an adored mortal was a dangerous thing. A daughter like Danae could attract divine attention, and divine attention often led to divine children. And so, in a decision born from desperation rather than cruelty, the king ordered the construction of a prison unlike any other, a tower of polished bronze, sealed with iron bolts and guarded night and day. No man could enter. No man could even glimpse her. A cage for a single sparrow. Danae did not fight him. She was dutiful, obedient, trained from birth to respect her father's will. But the loneliness that settled over her was a slow, suffocating ache. She saw the sky only through a latticed opening carved at the very top of the chamber. From that narrow window came the sounds of life she could no longer touch, the distant laughter of children, the songs of market women selling their spices and figs, the hum of chariots rolling over sun-baked stone. Years passed. Seasons slipped by like pages turning in a forgotten book. And Danae, the princess of Argos, faded from the world's memory. But the gods did not forget her. The god who noticed her first was Zeus, king of Olympus, whose gaze wandered frequently among mortals. He saw Danae in her chamber of bronze, a caged beauty, radiant even in her solitude, and desire stirred within him. He watched her weep at night, her tears glimmering in the thin shaft of moonlight that pierced her tiny window. He watched her press her palm against the cold bronze wall as though trying to imagine the world beyond it. He watched her kneel in prayer, her quiet voice trembling as she begged the gods, any god, to hear her. And Zeus, moved by a mixture of compassion and longing, made a decision that would ignite the wrath of fate. He would visit her, not as a man Acrisius had taken great pains to ensure no mortal male could enter the tower. But Zeus was no mortal, and barriers that defied men crumbled like clay before a god. So one night, when the moon was a silver crescent suspended above Argos, a shower of golden light drifted down from the heavens. The light passed through the window like mist, swirling into Danae's chamber, illuminating the room with warm brilliance. Startled, Danae rose to her feet, her breath catching in her throat. The golden light enfolded her gently, like a lover's embrace. And from that divine light came a presence, a consciousness, a voice that echoed without sound. "Do not fear me, Danae." Her knees weakened. She felt an overwhelming sense of awe, of warmth, of something ancient and uncontainable. Who are you?" she whispered. The golden radiance pulsed softly. "One who has heard your prayers." From their union, a union of starlight and mortal flesh, a child was conceived. When Acrisius learned his daughter had given birth, his mind shattered anew. He stormed into the bronze tower, sword drawn, expecting to see a lover, some treacherous intruder who had defied his decree. But he found none, only Danae, weak from childbirth yet luminous with maternal joy, cradling an infant in her arms. The child's eyes were unlike any Acrisius had ever seen, storm blue and bright as though the ocean itself had taken residence within them. "Who is the father?" Acrisius demanded, his voice a rasp of panic. Danae clutched the child protectively. "A god," she whispered. "A god visited me in the form of golden light." To Acrisius, her answer was not a comfort. It was a nightmare, for a son of a god was far more dangerous than the son of a mortal. This must be the child of the prophecy, the child destined to kill him. Acrisius stared at the infant as though he were a serpent coiled to strike. His fingers trembled around the hilt of his sword, yet he could not bring himself to spill the blood of his own flesh. Even a fearful king knew that infanticide would offend the gods beyond forgiveness, especially if the child was divine. But there was another solution, one that would ease his conscience while satisfying the cruel logic of self-preservation. He would not kill them. He would simply cast them out to the sea. It was dawn when the guards carried Danae and her infant out of the city. Acrisius watched from the cliffs as his soldiers placed them into a wooden chest, sturdy yet deliberately unsealed, designed to drift, to surrender to the whims of the sea. Danae wept silently, her newborn pressed against her breast. "Father, please," she begged. "He is but a baby, "If you must banish me, but spare him." But Acrisius hardened his heart. "Your child is my doom," he said coldly. "The sea will decide your fate." He turned away as the guards pushed the chest into the water. The waves pulled it outward, carrying mother and child into the vast blue expanse. Danae clung to her son, rocking gently as the chest rose and fell with the swells of the ocean. She whispered to him through trembling lips, "You are Perseus, born of the gods. The sea will not take you. The world will not swallow you. I will not let fate claim you." But fate had already taken notice, and somewhere far away, on the shifting throne of Olympus, Zeus watched over his child with pride. While deeper still, in the dark chambers of prophecy, the threads of destiny tightened, preparing for the legend that would one day rise from the sea, armed with courage and shadowed by doom. For this child, this abandoned prince would grow into a hero whose name would echo for eternity. The boy named Perseus. The sea carried the wooden chest far beyond the borders of Argos, beyond the reach of King Acrisius, beyond the sight of any mortal who might pity the doomed mother and her newborn child. For days and nights uncounted, the waves lifted and dropped the fragile vessel as though testing its resolve. Sometimes it drifted beneath blistering sun. Sometimes it rocked beneath a sky heavy with stars. Sometimes storms clawed at it, rain pounding its wooden planks like fists of an enraged titan. But the chest did not sink. Perhaps it was the craftsmanship of the Argive carpenters. Perhaps it was luck. Perhaps more likely it was the unseen hand of Zeus guiding his mortal daughter and his divine son across the waters. Whatever the cause, the sea, in its vast indifference, allowed them to live. Danae held the infant close throughout their ordeal, whispering to him, singing softly even when her throat burned with thirst. She shielded him with her cloak when the sun grew merciless. She pressed him against her heart when the night turned cold. And when waves splashed into the chest, she cupped her hands and scooped water out, afraid that a single careless moment might cost her the child her father had feared so greatly. The child himself, Perseus, rarely cried. It was as though even in infancy he sensed that tears would not save them. His eyes, bright as dawn on the sea, remained alert and watchful, reflecting the restless blue around them. Then, one morning, when Danae felt her strength nearing its limits, a cry pierced the air. Not the cry of a baby, a gull. And gulls meant land. Danae rose on shaking knees and peered over the edge of the chest. For a moment her breath caught, unbelieving. But there it was, a coastline of rocky hills rising sharply from the sea, dotted with sparse greenery and crowned with cliffs. Waves broke against the jagged rocks in white foam, yet the chest drifted steadily toward a gentler patch of shore, a crescent-shaped cove where the sand glimmered like powdered gold. The island of Seriphos. As the chest washed up onto the beach, Danae collapsed forward, clutching her child and sobbing with relief. She pressed her forehead to the sand, murmuring a half prayer, half thank you to whatever power had delivered them. She did not know she had been seen. A fisherman named Dictys, brother to the island's ruler, happened to be walking along the shore that morning, searching for washed-up nets tangled after the night's tide. He was a gentle man, weathered by years of salt and sun, but possessing eyes full of simple kindness. When he saw the chest drifting through the shallows toward the beach, curiosity overcame him. He hurried to the edge of the water and waded in, grasping the wooden box by its sides and dragging it to shore. When he opened it, expecting perhaps some lost cargo or damaged goods, he froze. Inside lay a pale, exhausted woman and a child, whose eyes shone like the sea itself. Dictys was not a man easily startled, but this sight pierced him. He knelt beside the chest, lowering his voice instinctively as one might when approaching a wounded creature. "Are you hurt?" he asked. Danae looked up with fear, then confusion, then tentative hope. We were cast adrift," she whispered. "Please, if you have any kindness, help my son." Dictys's expression softened. He extended a hand, helping her out of the chest, and examined the child with gentle care. "You are safe now," he said, his voice steady and warm. "I swear it on the sea that feeds me." And so Danae and Perseus were taken in by the fisherman, who led them to his modest home at the edge of the village. Dictys's hut was small, its walls made of woven reeds and its roof thatched with dried grass. But it was clean and filled with the scent of dried herbs hung from the ceiling. Danae was given a place to rest, food to strengthen her, water to soothe her parched throat. Perseus slept peacefully for the first time in days. Life on Seriphos was humble, but peaceful. The people were fishermen and traders, accustomed to storms and scarcity, yet generous enough to survive as a community. They accepted Danae without question, whispering among themselves that perhaps the gods had guided her there for a reason. Perseus grew among them like a sapling planted in fertile soil. Dictys treated the boy as though he were his own, teaching him how to mend nets, how to cast a line, how to read the shifting moods of the sea. Danae watched with quiet gratitude, though the shadow of her past never fully left her eyes. She lived in constant fear that Acrisius might one day discover she survived. But years passed with no sign of danger. Perseus developed quickly, with a strength and sharpness unusual for his age. When he was small, he could climb the rocky cliffs faster than boys older than he. When he was 10, he could swim farther and dive deeper than most grown fishermen. When he reached his teens, he could lift heavy baskets of fish with ease and run across the sand with the speed of a deer. But his body was not the only thing extraordinary. He possessed a courage that glimmered naturally within him, like the steady flame of a lantern untroubled by wind. When storms rolled across Seriphos and other boys sought shelter, Perseus stood on the shore with Dictys, learning how to secure the boats. When a wild boar once broke into the village, scattering the livestock, Perseus, only 12 at the time, grabbed a long spear and helped corner the animal until the hunters arrived. He was a boy born to challenge danger, though he did not yet know the shape of his destiny. But not all on Seriphos viewed him with affection. Dictys's brother, King Polydectes, was a man of ambition and cunning. Though he wore a crown, he lacked a noble spirit. He was known for his sharp tongue, his unpredictable temper, and his insatiable desire for power. Danae's beauty, once hidden in a bronze chamber, did not escape his notice for long. From the moment he laid eyes on her, Polydectes felt an urge born of poisonous admiration. Whether it was lust, possessiveness, or the thrill of controlling something that was not his, even he might not have known. But Danae's gentle refusal of his attention ignited a spark of resentment in him. She remained polite but distant, offering no encouragement. It was then that Polydectes realized something crucial. Danae's son was the obstacle. Perseus stood between him and what he desired. The king noticed how fiercely the boy protected his mother, how his mere presence emboldened her. And so Polydectes began to regard Perseus with simmering disdain. As Perseus matured into a young man, tall, strong, confident, the tension only grew. The people of Seriphos admired Perseus openly, praising his bravery, his loyalty, his sense of justice. They whispered that he carried the blood of gods. That only made Polydectes more wary. He needed a way to remove the young man without arousing the fury of the islanders or of Dictys. And he found that opportunity like a predator finding weakness in its prey. The plan took root during a celebration. Polydectes declared he intended to take a wife, a noble-born maiden of another kingdom, whose lineage would strengthen his own. As was custom, every man on the island was expected to bring a gift to honor the occasion. Fishermen brought woven baskets. Merchants brought spices. Craftsmen offered finely carved ornaments. When Perseus stepped forward, he held no gift. He had nothing to offer. He had only his strength and his courage qualities not measured in gold. Polydectes seized upon this moment with feigned magnanimity. "You bring no offering," he said, his voice smooth yet tinged with mock despair. "But perhaps you might do something grander than any token." Perseus met his gaze steadily. "Name your request, my king." A sly smile curled Polydectes' lips. "I ask for something rare, something priceless, a gift worthy of a future bride. Bring me the head of Medusa, one of the Gorgons." The hall fell silent. Perseus felt his breath catch, though he did not allow his expression to falter. Medusa, a creature whispered of only in fearful tales, a monster whose gaze turned living flesh to stone, a being so deadly that even the bravest warriors refused to pursue her. The request was not a challenge. It was a death sentence. Polydectes' smile widened. "Surely," he murmured, "the son of Zeus is not afraid." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Perseus stiffened. He had never claimed divinity. The king's words were a taunt, a provocation, a public trap, and Perseus, proud and young, could not allow himself to be shamed. "I will bring you her head," he declared clearly, each word cutting through the air like a thrown spear. "If such is the gift you desire." Danae cried out softly, reaching toward him, but Perseus gently took her hands and pressed them to his heart. "Do not fear for me, mother," he whispered, but inside, fear coiled tight within him. Not fear of death, but fear of leaving her unprotected. He did not know that his journey would echo through legend, that the gods themselves would intervene. That destiny had been waiting patiently for him to take this very step. For Perseus had been born for this moment, born to face monsters, born to defy impossibility, born to carve his name into eternity. His quest had begun. Perseus left the hall that night with a heavy weight pressing against his chest, as though an invisible hand sought to crush the breath from his lungs. The cheers and gasps of the islanders still echoed in his ears, and behind them, beneath them, twined the soft, barely audible laughter of Polydectes. A laughter he had not heard aloud but sensed in the spaces between words. He knew the king had maneuvered him into a trap. He knew he had taken the bait. And yet, what else could he have done? Honor was not something Perseus wore like a cloak, something chosen at convenience. It was fused to his very bones. He had been raised by a fisherman, but carried the blood of a god. A challenge accepted was a challenge he would either fulfill or die attempting. And this challenge was unlike any other a mortal had ever taken. Medusa, a creature born of curse and nightmare, a monster whose very gaze transformed men into statues, one of 3 Gorgon sisters, yet the only one mortal, and thus the only one killable. Perseus had heard the stories whispered by older fishermen as they mended their nets by lamplight. Medusa lived in a place beyond maps, beyond reason. A realm of shadows and desolation where the earth itself recoiled from her presence. Men who sought her did not return, but he could not turn back. Not now. He walked alone along the moonlit shore, the waves whispering against the sand like restless spirits. The sea had raised him. He understood its voice as one understands the breath of a sleeping child. Tonight, it felt troubled. Perseus stopped at the edge of a cliff overlooking the water. The wind tugged gently at his tunic. His thoughts churned like a storm-tossed sea. How am I to find her? He murmured aloud. How am I to fight something no mortal can look upon? No answer came, but something stirred behind him. A soft rustle of feathers. Perseus froze. Slowly, he turned. Before him stood a tall woman clad in gleaming bronze armor that shone even beneath the pale moonlight. Her eyes were clear, sharp, and deep as the wisdom of centuries. In her hand, she carried a spear crafted of celestial metal, its point radiating cold light. He knew her instantly. Athena, goddess of wisdom, war, and strategy, patron of heroes, daughter of Zeus. Perseus dropped to one knee, heart pounding. "Rise, son of Danae," Athena said, her voice ringing like steel drawn from a sheath. For a hero does not bow without purpose. He rose slowly, meeting her gaze with awe. "You know of my quest," he said quietly. "I do," Athena replied. "And more importantly, I know how you may succeed." Perseus's breath hitched. Hope flickered within him, tentative but real. "How?" he asked. Athena stepped closer, her presence radiating calm authority. "You cannot fight what you cannot face," she said. "And you cannot face what you cannot look upon. To defeat Medusa, you must never look directly at her." Perseus frowned. "Then how?" Athena extended her arm. In her hand appeared a polished bronze shield, curved perfectly, gleaming like a still pool on a windless day. "This is the Aegis," she said. "A shield forged in Olympus and blessed by my own hand. It will not reflect your face, but it will reflect hers." Perseus took the shield with reverence. Its surface shimmered faintly, as though something divine stirred within it. "Look upon her only through its reflection," Athena warned, "for even a god may falter before the full force of her gaze." Perseus swallowed, nodding. Athena studied him a long moment. "You carry your father's strength," she said softly, "but do not mistake divine blood for invincibility. Courage is measured not by lineage, but by choices, and you have made the correct one today." He bowed his head. My mother, what of her? If I leave, Polydectes. Athena's expression hardened. The king of this island is a small man with a greedy heart, but he would be unwise to lay a finger on your mother while the gods watch. Perseus released a slow breath. Athena rested her hand lightly upon his shoulder. You will not walk this path alone, she said. Another watches you with interest, a messenger of the gods. As if summoned by her words, a burst of wind swept across the cliffside, not natural wind, but something swifter, sharper, edged with divine speed. A figure appeared beside Athena, landing lightly upon the ground. He wore a traveler's cloak, winged sandals, and a winged cap. A caduceus, a staff twined with golden serpents, rested in his hand. Hermes, messenger of Olympus, guide of heroes, god of cunning, luck, and crossroads. He flashed Perseus a grin. You've stirred up quite a bit of interest on Olympus, Hermes said casually. Not many mortals agree to hunt a monster who can kill with a glance. Brave, stupid, or both, you're definitely related to Zeus. Perseus gaped. He had never expected to be visited by one god, much less two. Hermes reached behind him and drew forth a sword, slim, elegant, forged of something that was neither steel nor silver. It glowed faintly, as though holding a shard of dawn within its blade. This, Hermes declared, is the harp, a blade older than the Titanomachy, strong enough to cut through stone or through the scales of a Gorgon. Perseus took it carefully. The sword felt weightless, perfectly balanced, an extension of his own arm. You will need more than weapons, Hermes added, his expression shifting to seriousness. The Gorgons dwell in a place hidden from mortals. No map shows it. No sailor reaches it. To find them, you must seek the Grey. Perseus frowned. I have heard that name only in whispers. And whispers are more generous than truth, Hermes replied with a smirk. The Graea are older than the gods, sisters of the Gorgons. They share one eye and one tooth among them, and they guard knowledge you must obtain. Athena continued, they will not willingly help you. You must force them to speak, but do not harm them. Ancient beings bear ancient grudges. Perseus nodded slowly, absorbing every word. There is more, Hermes said. You will need tools to contain Medusa's head once you strike her down, for even in death, her gaze holds power. The nymphs of the north possess such treasures: winged sandals, a cap of invisibility, and a bag that can safely hold the Gorgon's head. But the nymphs hide themselves from all men, and only the Graei know their location, Perseus murmured. Exactly. A nervous tremor passed through him, but he steadied himself. He now held a shield gifted by Athena, a blade gifted by Hermes, and knowledge that placed him upon the path. Yet with each gift came responsibility and danger. Athena stepped back, her eyes gleaming like polished marble. Your quest will test every part of you, she said. Your courage, your strength, your cunning, your endurance. Monsters will rise against you. Nightmares will hunt you. But remember, her voice softened, yet remained unbreakably firm. Heroes are not born by chance. They are born by purpose. Hermes added with a grin, and if you get yourself killed, Zeus will blame me, so try not to be stupid. Athena shot him a look. Hermes shrugged. What? It's true? Perseus found a smile tugging at his lips despite the enormity of his mission. The gods were here. The gods were helping him. If ever there was a sign that this was fate, this was it. Athena lifted her spear in salute. Go now, Perseus. Dawn will rise soon, and heroes do not wait for the sun to guide them. Hermes stepped beside her. We will watch, he said simply. And with a rush of wind and a flash of bronze light, both gods vanished. Perseus stood alone again, yet not the same as before. He held the Aegis shield at his side. He gripped the harp sword with certainty, and within him surged a fire he had never known. He returned to Dictys's home quietly and found his mother awake, worry etched deeply into her gentle face. She rose immediately, hurrying to him. Perseus, my son, you should go nowhere near the Gorgons. He took her hands gently. I must. Polydectes will never stop until he tears our lives apart. This quest is my only path. Danae's eyes filled with tears. I have already lost a kingdom. I cannot lose my son. You will not, he said firmly, though the fear he battled within himself tightened like a knot. The gods have come to me tonight. Athena and Hermes themselves guide my path. Danae froze, breath halting. The gods, they spoke to you? Perseus nodded. Danae brushed trembling fingers against his cheek, awe mingling with fear. Then perhaps your father watches over you, she whispered softly. Go with his strength, but return with your own. Perseus embraced her tightly, holding her for a long, silent moment. Then, as dawn streaked across the sky in hues of amber and rose, he stepped outside, shield on his arm, sword at his hip, determination etched into every line of his face. Dictys waited by the edge of the village. He said no heroic words. Dictys was a simple man, and simple words held the deepest truths. Return home, he said quietly. That is all I ask. Perseus placed a hand on the fisherman's shoulder. I will. And with that, he set off along the narrow path leading away from the village, away from the only home he had known. He did not look back. The world opened before him like a vast, uncharted book. The air smelled of salt and destiny. The horizon glowed with the promise of trials yet unseen. And Perseus walked onward, the weight of heroism settling upon him like a cloak woven by fate itself. He would seek the Grae. He would battle monsters. He would face nightmares. He would hunt Medusa. And in doing so, he would carve the opening lines of a legend that would echo through time. For the quest had begun, and Perseus, son of Danae, son of Zeus, walked boldly into the story of his destiny. The road that lay ahead of Perseus was long, barren, and carved through a land untouched by mortal hands. He traveled for days beneath an ever-shifting sky, guided only by instinct, the memories of Athena's and Hermes' voices, and the faint, uncanny pull of destiny. The world around him changed as he moved farther from the gentle shores of Seriphos. Rolling hills gave way to harsh rocky plains. The air grew colder, and the winds carried whispers that brushed against him like unseen fingers. He had never traveled beyond the island in all his life. Now the vastness of the world pressed upon him with a strange mixture of fear and exhilaration. Every dawn unveiled new terrain. Every twilight carried new sounds. Sometimes he wondered if he was still walking upon the earth of men, or if he had already stepped into the realm of myth. If he had asked himself honestly, he would have admitted that he was afraid. But fear was a quiet companion, a shadow trailing at his heels, not a weight upon his shoulders. And in the place where fear might have grown roots, purpose grew instead. Hermes had told him to seek the Grey sisters, ancient crones who shared one eye and one tooth between them. They guarded secrets only gods understood. They knew the location of the nymphs who held the tools Perseus needed to reach Medusa. The winged sandals, the magic bag, the helm of invisibility. Without them, his journey would end before it began. On the 7th morning since he left Seriphos, Perseus reached a desolate stretch of land where the sky seemed dim even at midday. The earth was cracked and pale, devoid of color. Not a bird sang, not an insect chirped. The very air felt stagnant, as though time had slowed to a crawl. In the distance, 3 silhouettes stood upon a rocky outcropping. He knew immediately. The Grey. As he approached, he saw them more clearly. 3 bent figures dressed in ragged gray veils that fluttered slightly, though no wind stirred. Their skin was ashen, stretched thin over frail bones. Their hair hung in wisps of silver white. But what struck Perseus most was how still they stood, as if carved from stone. Then suddenly, one of them lifted a trembling hand. "Is it day or night, sisters?" croaked a voice like dry leaves scraping against stone. "I cannot tell," rasped the second. "Give me the eye." "I had it last," whined the third. They huddled together, fumbling in the folds of their garments until one produced a single gleaming object. A large orb, pale as moonstone, glistening faintly in the dim light. Perseus paused several paces away. He held the Aegis shield at his back, the harp sword at his side. The god-given items glimmered faintly, as though sensing the presence of ancient forces. He cleared his throat. "Grey!" The 3 heads jerked toward him in perfect unison. But their one shared eye, was not yet in place. They sniffed the air instead, their nostrils flaring like beasts sensing prey. "A mortal," hissed the first. "A foolish boy," muttered the second. "Or a tasty one," giggled the third, revealing a gap where their shared tooth should have been. Perseus held his ground. "I am Perseus, son of Danae. I seek the sisters who know the path to the hidden nymphs of the north." The Grey cackled, a shrill rattling sound that scraped at the inside of his skull. "We know many things," one crooned. "We guard many secrets," added another. "But why?" purred the third. "Should we share them with you?" Perseus had expected resistance. Hermes had warned him, "They will never tell you willingly." He watched as they raised the gleaming eye, passing it from one clawed hand to the next. Their motions were slow, clumsy. The eye seemed to slip more than it was grasped. But each time it nearly fell, one of them snatched it back with uncanny reflexes. He waited, listening, calculating. And when the eye reached its highest arc, midair between 2 bony hands, when none of the sisters truly held it, Perseus moved. He lunged forward with the speed of a striking hawk, snatching the eye from the air before it reached their clutching fingers. The reaction was immediate and chaotic. The 3 sisters shrieked, stumbling toward him blindly, arms flailing like tangled branches. "Give it back! Thief! Impudent mortal!" Perseus dodged their grasping hands with ease. "I will return it when you tell me what I seek." They halted, hissing like trapped serpents. "That eye is older than the gods," wailed one. "It sees all truths," screeched another. "It is our only sight," cried the third. Perseus held it firmly but carefully. "Then you know I will guard it until you speak." The Grey huddled together, whispering in frantic voices, their heads bobbing like carrion birds. Perseus watched them with wary attention, maintaining a safe distance. Though frail in appearance, they radiated a strange, ancient power. Finally, they turned to him, their expressions twisted with grudging resignation. "What do you seek, meddling child of men?" croaked the first. "The nymphs of the north," Perseus replied. "The ones who guard the treasures that can help me face Medusa." At the mention of the Gorgon, the sisters recoiled as though struck. "A fool's errand," muttered the second. "A cursed task," lamented the third. "Even gods tread lightly around that one." Perseus's voice remained firm. "Yet I must go." Silence stretched, a silence heavy and thick, as though the air itself held its breath. At last, the first sister sighed, a sound like ancient wood cracking. "Very well, mortal. You have stolen our sight, so you shall have your truth. But the cost of knowledge is greater than you understand." The second sister raised her trembling hand, pointing toward the distant horizon. "Far beyond this land lie the realms of endless frost, a place where time itself sleeps." "They hide themselves from all eyes," added the third, "even ours when we had our sight." "But follow the northern star," rasped the first. "Travel until the sky itself freezes. There, where the winds scream like dying gods, you will find the nymphs." "Now return our eye," all three demanded at once. Perseus studied them. He sensed no deception, only resentment and ancient bitterness, and he had what he needed. He stepped forward cautiously and placed the eye into the outstretched, quivering hand of the nearest sister. The moment her fingers closed around it, the three fell into frantic motion, snatching it from one another, until one finally jammed it into her hollow socket. She blinked rapidly, and the orb swirled with a pale, ghostly glow. They spun toward Perseus, their newly restored vision fixing upon him with unsettling intensity. "We have kept our bargain," rasped the first. "Now go," hissed the second. "Before we decide to eat you after all," snarled the third. Perseus backed away slowly. He had no desire for further confrontation. Before he turned to leave, one of the sisters spoke again, her voice lower, colder, carrying a weight the others lacked. "Hero," she whispered, "beware the Gorgons, beware Medusa. Hers is not a simple death. Unmake a monster, and you wake forces far older than gods. You cannot imagine what stirs in the shadow of her fall." Perseus felt a chill crawl down his spine. "What do you mean?" But the Graea only shrieked laughter in reply, their voices echoing across the barren plain like wails of lost souls. Perseus tightened his grip on the harp sword. Then he turned north. The days that followed were harsher than any he had yet endured. The terrain shifted into icy wasteland, jagged peaks of frozen earth, plains coated in frost thick as crushed glass, and winds that sliced like cold knives. Perseus wrapped himself in furs traded from shepherds he met along the way. But still the cold seeped into his bones. He kept his eyes fixed upon the northern star. Sometimes he slept beneath rocky overhangs, sometimes in shallow caves, sometimes not at all. Strange noises echoed through the frozen valleys. At night, the wind moaned like something alive. Twice, he saw shadows gliding across distant ridges, shapes too large to be wolves, too graceful to be bears. But none approached him. Whether they feared him, the divine shield at his back, or the sword at his side, he could not know. What he did know was this: he was being watched, not by animals, not by beasts, but by something ancient, something that waited. On the 9th night, when he believed the cold would crack his ribs, he spotted a faint glow at the base of a mountain, a glimmer of soft golden light. He approached cautiously. At first, he thought the glow was firelight, but as he drew closer, he realized it was far too steady, too pure, too musical. It radiated warmth, and then he saw them. 3 figures stood before a crystalline pool rimmed with frost, each glowing faintly like stars fallen upon the earth. Their garments shimmered like moonlit silk. Their hair flowed like pure silver. Their skin glowed with delicate radiance. They moved with a grace untouched by time. The nymphs of the north. They turned toward him before he could speak, as though they had sensed him long before he arrived. "Perseus," said the first, her voice like snowflake chimes. "Son of Danae," murmured the second, her eyes bright as frost. "Child of Zeus," whispered the third, her smile knowing and ancient. "You have come for the gifts," said the first. "For the hunt," added the second. "For the monster," finished the third. Perseus bowed deeply. "I seek the tools to fulfill my quest." The nymphs exchanged glances, silent, fluid communication. Then they nodded. One stepped forward and presented him with a small, shimmering leather pouch. "This is the kibisis," she said. "A bag woven with magic. Once Medusa's head is cut, place it within. For even in death, her gaze can turn flesh to stone." Another nymph approached, holding sandals crafted of golden leather with delicate wings extending from their sides. "These are the Teleria," she said. "Sandal wings blessed by Hermes. They will carry you through air swifter than any bird." The final nymph drew forth a dark glimmering helm, smooth, silent, and cold as deep shadow. "And this is the cap of Hades," she whispered. "Wear it, and you vanish from all sight." Perseus took each gift reverently. "Thank you," he said quietly. "I will not waste what you have given." The first nymph's gaze softened. "Few mortals inspire the favor of gods." The second's voice drifted like wind. "Fewer still walk willingly into the jaws of doom." The third reached out, placing a cool hand upon his cheek. "Remember, hero, monsters are not born without cause. Medusa's story is a tragedy chained by divine cruelty. When you face her, have courage, but also a sliver of mercy." He swallowed hard. "I will." The nymphs stepped back, their forms growing faint. "Go now, Perseus," they whispered in unison. "Your fate awaits." And with a soft rush of shimmering light, they vanished. Perseus stood alone once more, though now he carried tools no mortal had ever held. He tightened the winged sandals onto his feet. He slung the magic bag at his side. He placed the cap of Hades beneath his cloak. The air around him seemed charged with possibility. He was ready. The hunt for Medusa would begin. But the shadow of tragedy, the warning the nymphs had spoken, lingered in his heart like a cold ember. Monsters are not born. They are made. And Perseus was about to meet one born of pain, cursed beyond understanding, feared by a world that never knew her true story. With divine gifts in hand and destiny at his back, Perseus stepped onto the path that would lead him to the darkest corner of the world, the land where even nightmares dared not tread, the lair of the Gorgons. And Medusa waited, not knowing her fate approached, not knowing that the hero who would end her suffering had begun his final march, not knowing that soon everything would change. The gifts of the nymphs felt strangely alive upon Perseus, as though they recognized the hands that held them and the destiny that guided him. The winged sandals tingled with latent power, whispering promises of speed beyond mortal understanding. The cabesus at his side felt weightless yet indestructible, a pocket of stillness in a shifting world. And the cap of Hades, tucked beneath his cloak, carried an aura of silence so deep that even thoughts seemed quieter when his fingers brushed it. With these treasures and the divine shield upon his arm, Perseus turned south again, but not toward Seriphos. His path now bent toward the western reaches of the world, the land where night and day met in uneasy truce, where even gods rarely ventured. The realm of the Gorgons. No map marked it, and no mortal legend fully captured the truth of what lay there. But Hermes had whispered hints to him earlier, and the nymphs had murmured cryptic signs. Perseus followed the shifting clues across deserts of black sand, volcanic plains that steamed beneath his feet, forests turned to stone by some ancient catastrophe, and cliffs that seemed carved not by nature, but by titanic claws. The land changed the closer he came to his destination. Shadows lengthened unnaturally. The wind carried metallic scents, like old blood and shattered bronze. The air grew heavy, thick with the residue of curses older than mortal memory. At night, he dreamt. Always the same dream. A woman crying in darkness, a flash of golden hair, the sound of waves, then screams, dozens of them, swallowed by silence, and a face he could never quite see, hidden behind writhing shapes, reaching out toward him not in fury, but in sorrow. He would wake gasping, heart hammering, unsure whether dreams were warnings or memories that weren't his own. It was on the 17th day since leaving the nymphs that Perseus reached a valley unlike any he had seen. Jagged stone pillars rose from the earth like the ribs of an ancient beast. The ground was littered with broken statues, warriors frozen mid-scream, beasts captured mid-roar, birds suspended forever in stone flight. Perseus crouched beside one statue, a man, muscular and broad-shouldered, clad in armor now fractured and brittle. His face was twisted in terror. One arm was raised as though shielding himself from something too horrible to face. The detail was so perfect that Perseus could see every crease of fear etched into the stone. This had once been a living man. Perseus's breath fogged the air. The valley was unnaturally cold. He rose, scanning the horizon. Something tugged at his senses, a presence, heavy and oppressive, as though the land itself watched him. He whispered to himself, "I must be close." The statues grew more mutilated as he advanced. Some were shattered to dust, as though crushed by unimaginable force. Others were half buried in the earth, toppled and weathered by time. A few still stood untouched, faces frozen in hopeless defiance. The silence thickened into something suffocating. Perseus paused, slowly reaching for the cap of Hades. "Athena," he murmured, though he didn't know if she listened. "Guide my steps." He pulled the cap over his head. The world shifted. His body vanished. His breath became inaudible. Even his own footsteps felt distant and unreal. He was invisible, not merely to sight, but to presence itself. The air grew colder still. A faint hissing sound slithered across the wind, soft, rhythmic, inhuman. Perseus held his breath. He had reached the lair. The cave was carved into the side of a mountainous cliff, its entrance wide and jagged like the maw of a dead titan. Dark stains marked the stone around it. Old blood, ancient battles, perhaps both. A chill deeper than winter emanated from the abyss within. Perseus tightened his grip on the harp sword. He stepped inside. Darkness swallowed him immediately, but the shield on his arm responded to his need. A faint glow spread across its bronze surface, illuminating the walls in pale gold. He kept the shield angled downward, never forward, fearful of what it might reveal if angled wrong. The air inside the cavern was moist, thick with the scent of decay and something sharp, acidic. Water dripped from the ceiling, echoing like heartbeats in the silence. Then he heard it, a wet, dragging sound, something breathing, something moving, slow, heavy, wrong. He crept deeper, each step careful, controlled. His invisibility shielded him from sight, but sound could still betray him. The cavern widened into a vast chamber. At its center lay what once might have been a shrine, shattered marble pillars, sculpted fragments of faces and limbs, all turned to dust or cracked beyond recognition. And there, resting upon a stone slab surrounded by curled stone serpents, lay a figure. She was smaller than he expected, a woman's shape, lithe, curled upon herself. But her hair, it writhed. Dozens of serpents, each one gleaming with venomous scales, twisted and coiled around her head. Some slept, their tongues flicking lazily. Others were restless, sensing the faintest vibrations in the cave. Her skin, where it wasn't shadowed, was pale as moonlight. Her arms trembled faintly. Her back rose and fell with slow, controlled breaths. Medusa. But she was not the monster Perseus had imagined. She was beautiful. Not in the way mortals told stories of beauty, but in a tragic, haunted way. A beauty buried beneath layers of suffering and hatred. Her fingers dug into the stone slab as though she fought nightmares even in sleep. Perseus approached slowly, his steps silent. He felt no triumph, no thrill of impending victory, only a crushing sadness weighing upon his heart. The Grey's warning echoed in his mind. Monsters are not born, they are made. He took a slow breath and positioned the Aegis shield so that he could peer into the polished bronze surface. The reflection shimmered faintly, revealing Medusa's form distorted safely in its curvature. Her face was not the snarling visage carved in mortal nightmares. She looked pained, weary, burdened by a curse she had never asked for. For a moment, Perseus hesitated. Could he do this? Could he kill a creature that looked more victim than villain? But he knew the truth. Her gaze, even asleep, could kill him instantly. Her serpents twitched with restless energy. Her domain was a graveyard of heroes. To falter now was to die, and to doom his mother. He steadied himself. "This is mercy," he whispered, though the words felt heavy. He raised the harp sword. The serpent suddenly stiffened. Medusa's eyes snapped open, glowing, emerald, furious. Perseus flinched, but he did not look at her, only at her distorted reflection. She lunged. A hiss tore through the cavern like a thunderclap. Her serpents reared, striking at air, sensing a presence they could not see. Perseus stepped sideways just as she hurled a stone fragment where he had stood. The rock exploded against the cavern wall. Her voice, when she spoke, was ragged, shaking with ancient rage. "Who comes? Who dares?" Perseus swallowed hard. His heart pounded so violently he feared the serpents would hear it. Her gaze swept blindly across the cavern, yet even the air seemed to freeze under its power. "I smell gods upon you," she hissed. "Cowards, hiding behind divine gifts, as they always have." Her words were soaked in grief and venom. Perseus gripped the sword tighter. He moved silently, circling behind her, following the reflection in the shield. Medusa's breath hitched suddenly. "End it then," she whispered. "If you have come to free me, do it." The resignation in her voice struck him deeper than any curse could. She was not fighting for victory. She was fighting for release. Perseus stumbled, only slightly, only a whisper of sound, but Medusa heard it. She spun toward him with deadly precision, serpent screaming. He swung. The harp blade sliced cleanly through the air. There was a flash of dim light, a hiss, a cry, a sound like the world exhaling. Then silence. Perseus stood trembling, staring into the shield's reflection. Medusa's body collapsed, lifeless. Her serpents fell quiet. Her face, even in death, looked peaceful, unburdened at last from her curse. He swallowed a painful ache rising in his chest. "This was mercy," he murmured again. "May the gods remember that." He quickly lifted her head using the sword, avoiding direct sight. With trembling hands, he lowered it gently into the cabeces. The bag sealed itself with a whisper, as though swallowing the last trace of her agony. The cavern suddenly trembled. Perseus staggered. The ground shook violently. Cracks spiderwebbed across the stone floor. Dust rained from the ceiling. The entire lair burned with a new energy, wild, chaotic, furious. Medusa's death had awakened something. A roar echoed through the cavern, not human, not mortal. Something massive stirred deeper within the shadows. Perseus froze. He knew instantly. The other Gorgons, Stheno and Euryale, Medusa's immortal sisters, had awakened, and they were coming. Perseus whipped the cap of Hades onto his head and darted toward the cave entrance. The winged sandals flared to life, lifting him from the ground just as a monstrous figure exploded into the chamber. A gigantic shape, larger than any mortal man, with clawed hands and serpentine hair, barreled into the space where he had just stood, shrieking in rage. "Medusa, our sister! Who did this?" Perseus soared upward, barely dodging a crushing blow that shattered stone into dust. The cavern shook again as the second sister stormed in, her voice a howl of grief and fury so powerful it made the air vibrate. Perseus did not dare breathe. Invisible, weightless, he slipped between falling rocks and enraged claws. But Stheno's senses were sharp, sharper than Medusa's had been. "I smell you, thief!" she shrieked. "You cannot hide from us!" howled Euryale. Perseus shot through the cavern mouth into the icy air of the valley. Behind him, the mountains trembled with the wrath of immortal monsters. He flew higher, faster. The sandals carried him like lightning. Below, the Gorgons burst from the cave, their roars shaking the valley, their serpents lashing in wild fury. They tore through the statues of frozen warriors, pulverizing ancient stone in their rage. Perseus soared higher, pressing on until the valley shrank behind him like a bad dream dissolving at dawn. But even as he left the cursed land, the nymph's warning haunted his thoughts. Unmake a monster, and you wake forces far older than gods. He clutched the kibisis to his chest. He had done what he came to do. But fate had only begun to unfold. His battle was won. But the war waiting on Seriphos had only just awakened. The world looked different as Perseus soared above it. Not because the land itself had changed, but because he had. He flew with the winged sandals skimming the clouds, the cold air rushing past him like the breath of the gods. The kibisis hung at his side, light despite the terrible power it contained. The cap of Hades cloaked him in shadow should danger approach. The Aegis shield remained strapped across his back, its divine bronze warm against his skin. The harp sword still glimmered with Medusa's blood. He had faced death, fury, and ancient sorrow. He had walked through a land where time had died and returned with a trophy feared by gods and monsters alike. He was no longer simply a fisherman's adopted son. He was Perseus, a hero forged in darkness. But his journey was far from finished. His mother still lived under the shadow of Polydectes, and every wingbeat carried him closer to the man who had manipulated him into this deadly quest. Fear stirred in Perseus's chest, not for himself, but for Danae. What had happened to her during his long absence? Had Polydectes kept his word? Or had the cowardly king seized the chance to harm her? Perseus clenched his fists. Polydectes would answer for everything. The flight home was long, for the sandals carried him swiftly, but not endlessly. He crossed a desert of crimson sands where serpents moved like living streams. He crossed a forest so thick that even sunlight dared not pierce the canopy. He passed through the lands of shepherds who gaped at the sight of a man flying across the sky, blessing themselves and whispering praise to Hermes. One night, as Perseus rested atop a craggy cliff, the moonlight silvered the world below him. It was then that he realized he was not alone. The faint flutter of wings approached from behind. Not the steady beat of Hermes' sandals, not the thunderous wings of monsters. Something lighter, softer. The wings of a bird. A snowy white owl alighted upon a nearby branch, its eyes glowing with an intelligence no ordinary creature possessed. Athena. Perseus bowed his head. My goddess. The owl blinked and hopped closer. When it spoke, its voice was soft, yet rang with divine clarity. You have done what few mortals could, Athena said. But your journey holds one more trial, one that will test not your courage, but your wisdom. Perseus met her gaze. My mother, Polydectes. Athena dipped her head in acknowledgement. The king prepares to force her into marriage. He believes you dead. The words seared through him like lightning. I must reach Seriphos at once. You will, Athena said. But remember, power is a gift and a burden. Medusa's head must be used with purpose, not fury. I did not guide you to become a creature of vengeance, Perseus. I will not fail your expectations, he said. The owl spread its wings. I know. Then Athena took flight, disappearing into the silver sky. Perseus stood for a long moment, the goddess's warning echoing within him. Purpose, not fury. He resumed his journey. The island of Seriphos appeared on the horizon several days later. A familiar ribbon of coastline, the small fishing village nestled like a humble pearl against the sea. Smoke curled gently from hearths he remembered. Boats bobbed in the harbor where he had spent his childhood evenings mending nets with Dictys. For the first time since leaving, a swell of warmth stirred in his chest. But beneath that warmth was dread. He descended quietly, landing upon the outskirts of the village. The sandals folded their wings and stilled. Removing the cap of Hades, Perseus stepped into the town square. The people froze. For a moment, there was silence. Stunned, breathless, total. Then voices erupted. "Perseus! He lives! By the gods, the boy returned!" Men and women rushed toward him, surrounding him, touching his shoulders and arms to be sure he was flesh and not a spirit. Children stared wide-eyed, whispering excitedly. Perseus felt a swell of gratitude, the affection of the humble, the warmth of home. But one face he searched for desperately. "Where is my mother?" he asked. The villagers' expressions dimmed. "She is in the palace," said an older woman. "Polydectes forbade her from leaving. Today he forces her to speak her vows." Perseus's jaw tightened. "Dictys?" "Yes, hiding in the hills," said a fisherman. "The king would have punished him as well." Perseus nodded. He placed a hand on the man's shoulder. "Your words have saved me precious time." Without further hesitation, Perseus strode toward the palace, and the villagers followed. Polydectes' palace was not grand, not like the marble halls of Argos or the towering temples of Athens. It was a crude, blocky structure of stone and timber, heavy-handed and inelegant, much like the king himself. Torches blazed outside the doors, and guards stood at attention. Or rather, they did until they saw Perseus. Their jaws dropped. They stepped aside instantly. Perseus entered the great hall. There Polydectes stood, draped in rich purple robes, a crown of polished iron upon his head. Danae knelt before him, her face pale, her shoulders trembling. A priest stood ready with a scroll. Polydectes' voice boomed with irritation. "For the last time, Danae, you will..." He turned. He froze. The hall fell silent as stone. Perseus stood tall, cloak billowing slightly from the ocean wind behind him, the Aegis shield gleaming upon his arm, the kibisis at his side. Danae gasped and rose to her feet. "Perseus!" The king's face contorted into shock, then anger, then something like fear. You returned," Polydectes stammered. Perseus took a step forward. "You sent me to my death." Polydectes tried to recover his arrogance. "You failed to bring a gift. I merely asked for one worthy of my bride." "You sought to rid yourself of me," Perseus said coldly, "so you might force yourself upon my mother." Gasps rippled through the hall. Guards shifted uneasily. The priest took a cautious step backward. Polydectes' lips curled into a sneer. Big words from a boy empty-handed. Perseus reached for the kibisis. "Empty-handed?" he repeated softly. "Is that what you believe?" Something in his tone, calm, cold, absolute, sent a shiver through the hall. Polydectes swallowed. "Do not toy with me." Perseus stepped into the center of the chamber. "I have brought you your gift," he said. "A gift no other man could obtain. A gift you demanded." He loosened the drawstring of the bag. Behold, the head of Medusa. Polydectes took an involuntary step back. "What?" Perseus reached into the bag. "Any man who would use cruelty," he murmured, "should be prepared to face it." And he pulled out Medusa's head. Her face, even in death, was terrible and magnificent. The serpents hung lifeless, but still glimmered with venomous sheen. Her eyes, now empty of soul, retained the power of the curse Athena had warned of. Polydectes screamed. He tried to shield his face, but it was too late. The moment his gaze met hers, his body stiffened, his skin paled. His features froze into a mask of horror as his flesh crystallized into pure stone. The transformation swept him from feet to crown. His last breath turned to marble dust upon the air. Perseus lowered the head, covering it once more. The hall was utterly silent. Then the people exhaled as one. Some fell to their knees, trembling. Others crossed themselves in reverence or fear. Danae pressed a hand to her mouth, tears spilling down her cheeks. Not from grief, but from shock and relief. "Perseus," she whispered. He set the bag aside and hurried to her, taking her into his arms. "Mother." She wept against him, clutching the fabric of his cloak, unable to speak. Perseus held her tightly. For a moment, the chaos of gods and monsters melted away, and he was simply her son again. A familiar voice called from the doorway. "Well done, boy." Perseus turned. Dictys stood there, cautious but smiling warmly. "Brother," he said, nodding toward the stone statue that had once been Polydectes. "Your tyrant is dead." The villagers, who had silently gathered behind Dictys, erupted with praise. They lifted the fishermen upon their shoulders, cheering. Perseus watched, breathing deeply. "Seriphos needs a king," he said loudly, so all would hear. The crowd fell silent. Perseus placed his hand upon Dictys' shoulder. "A good man, a just man." The islanders erupted again, chanting, "Dictys, Dictys, King Dictys." Dictys' eyes widened in disbelief, but Perseus smiled. "You held this island together. Now you will lead it." Danae touched Perseus' arm. "And what of you, my son?" Perseus looked toward the horizon, toward the mountains, the heavens, the world beyond. "I have other duties," he said softly. "Fate hasn't finished with me." Danae nodded, though her eyes shone with worry and pride. That night, the island celebrated. Fires burned along the shore. Fishermen danced. Children played games inspired by Perseus' tale. Danae sat beside him, watching the waves with a tranquil smile he had never seen on her face in all his life. But Perseus did not rest. He walked alone to the cliffs overlooking the moonlit sea. The wind tugged at his hair. The sound of waves soothed the last remnants of battle from his veins. He drew out the harp sword, studying its divine edge. He had killed a monster, but also freed a cursed soul. He had toppled a tyrant, but had not succumbed to vengeance. He had saved his mother and protected his home. Athena's words echoed in his mind. Purpose, not fury. He lifted his eyes to the stars. "Father," he whispered to Zeus, "I have done what was asked, but where does my path lead next?" He did not expect an answer, but thunder rumbled faintly across the cloudless sky, a low, approving murmur. Perseus smiled. He sheathed the sword. Tomorrow he would begin the journey to return Medusa's head to Athena. After that, perhaps he would seek Argos, face his grandfather, and resolve the ancient prophecy. His story was far from over. But tonight, at last, Perseus allowed himself to breathe, to rest, to be simply human again. If only for a moment. For a brief span of days, Seriphos felt like a haven carved out of time, a place where Perseus could breathe without looking over his shoulder, where laughter echoed through the village, and the warmth of his mother's presence soothed the weight of all he had endured. But heroes do not linger in peace for long. Their fates tug at them like tides, refusing to let them rest, and Perseus felt that tug sooner than expected. On the third morning after Polydectes' fall, as he stood by the shore mending one of Dictys' old nets out of habit more than necessity, a shadow passed across the sand. It came not from a cloud or bird, but from a presence. He turned. Hermes stood behind him, winged sandals, traveler's cloak, caduceus staff, bright, amused eyes. "You've been busy," the messenger god said with a grin, "and very dramatic, turning a king to stone. Well done. Very poetic." Perseus set down the net. "It was justice." Hermes raised an eyebrow. "It was effective, that's what matters." Perseus crossed his arms. "You didn't come here to compliment me." Hermes tapped his staff lightly against a rock, sending tiny sparks flying. "Correct. Athena wants Medusa's head." Perseus nodded. "I will bring it to her myself." The god tilted his head. "Not yet." Perseus frowned. "Not yet." Hermes stepped closer, lowering his voice. "There is another matter you must face first. A matter older than your quest for Medusa. Older even than your life." Perseus felt a chill coil inside him. The prophecy. Hermes sighed. "Your grandfather, King Acrisius of Argos, still lives." Perseus's throat tightened. "And he does not know you survived?" "He believes Danae died in the sea and that the prophecy was averted." Perseus's jaw hardened. "I must go to him." "You must." Hermes agreed. "But listen carefully." He took a slow breath, his tone turning uncharacteristically somber. "Prophecies are not curses. They are forces of balance. They are truth waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. Your grandfather feared it, but fear never stopped fate. It only shaped how fate arrives." Perseus swallowed, feeling the weight of every word. Hermes leaned on his staff. "You can avoid your destiny if you wish. You can refuse to go. Live quietly. Stay with your mother. No gods will strike you down." Perseus stared at him. "But you wouldn't tell me to go unless the fate you avoid," Hermes finished, "would only grow darker." Silence stretched between them. Perseus looked out over the waves where sunlight danced on the surface like molten gold. "I must go," he said at last. Hermes smiled. Not his usual grin, but something closer to approval. "I thought you would say that." He tapped Perseus lightly on the chest with the caduceus. "When you are ready, the sandals will carry you to Argos." Then he vanished in a swirl of shimmering air. Danae knew immediately that something had changed. She found Perseus at the water's edge, gazing toward the horizon. His expression was distant, touched by shadows. She approached him quietly. "A god visited you?" He nodded. She stood beside him, neither speaking for a long moment. "When you were a child," Danae said softly, "I prayed every night that fate would forget about you. I prayed that the sea would hide us forever, that we could live in peace. I know, but fate does not forget, and you are not a child anymore." She turned, taking his hands. "My son, if you must go, go with my blessing." Perseus hugged her tightly. "I will return." But the promise felt fragile, like a seashell in his palms. Dictys walked with Perseus to the cliffs where he had first landed after returning from the Gorgons. The fisherman carried a bundle wrapped in cloth. "You left this?" Dictys said gruffly. He unwrapped the cloth. revealing the harp sword, polished and gleaming, free of the blood that had once stained it. "I cleaned it," Dictys added, "not out of fear, but because no hero should wield a blade dulled by yesterday." Perseus felt emotion tighten his chest. "Thank you." Dictys clasped his shoulder. "Go do what men like me can't. Set right what kings have twisted." Perseus nodded. "Look after my mother." Dictys smiled. "Always." With farewells spoken, Perseus stepped back from the cliff's edge. He pulled the winged sandals tight around his feet. He adjusted the kibises. He secured the Aegis shield. He gripped the harp sword. Then he whispered, "Hermes, guide me." The sandals stirred, wings unfurled, wind surged beneath him, and Perseus rose into the sky. The journey to Argos was brief, for divine sandals outraced even the sharpest winds. Yet for Perseus, the time stretched endlessly. Thoughts churned in his mind, of Danae's imprisonment, of Acrisius's cruelty, of the prophecy that loomed like a storm cloud. But beneath those thoughts was something else. Doubt. Would his grandfather welcome him? Fear him? Reject him? Or try to kill him again? By the time the golden plains of Argos came into view, Perseus had prepared himself for every possibility, except the one that awaited him. Argos was not the city he had imagined. He expected a place of marble glory, arrogant towers, buzzing markets. Instead, he saw a land subdued by tension. Guards patrolled the walls nervously. Farmers led weary oxen across dry fields. Faces in the streets were pinched with something he recognized too well: fear. Perseus touched down outside the city walls and removed his sandals, hiding them beneath his cloak. He walked through the gates among traders and wanderers. A guard approached. Name and purpose. "My name is Perseus," he said. "I seek King Acrisius." Several guards stiffened. One blanched. "You, Perseus?" the captain repeated. "Son of Danae?" A hush rippled across the entryway. Perseus nodded. The captain swallowed. "The king must see you immediately." They escorted him into the city. Perseus's pulse quickened. His heart felt like a drum thrashing against his ribs. King Acrisius sat in a throne room of faded grandeur. He was older now, gray creeping through his beard, lines carved deeply into his forehead. But his eyes, those eyes were the same sharp, fearful ones that had condemned Danae and her newborn child to the sea. When he saw Perseus, the color drained from his face. "No," the king whispered. "No, this cannot be." Perseus stepped forward. "Grandfather." Acrisius staggered back. "You are dead. You were to be dead." The court fell into shocked silence. Perseus raised his chin. "I am alive, and I have come as a son, not an enemy." Acrisius pointed a trembling finger at him. "You bring doom. You are the child of prophecy." Perseus's voice remained calm. "Then let us speak of it. Let us break this fear between us." Acrisius clutched the edge of his throne. "Guards!" But no guard moved. The entire court watched in breathless awe. This was no ordinary traveler. Perseus stood strong, resolute, bearing divine gifts upon his person. Rumors of his deeds had reached even Argos. Whispers of a boy who had slain the unslayable, a hero who carried the Gorgon's head. Acrisius trembled violently. You cannot blame me," he sputtered. "I acted as any man would faced with death." The prophecy named you as my killer. Perseus shook his head. I never sought your throne. I never sought your life. He took a step closer. I came as your grandson, not your executioner. Acrisius backed away. Stay back. Perseus stopped. Grandfather, please. No. In panic, Acrisius turned and fled through a side passage. Perseus remained motionless for several seconds. The court stared in stunned silence. Finally, he whispered, "He is afraid of shadows." And he followed. Acrisius ran blindly through the palace, pushing past servants, stumbling over rugs. His breath came in ragged gasps. His vision blurred. All he could think was one thing. Escape. Escape fate. Escape the gods. Escape the grandson he had wronged. He burst out of the palace doors and into the streets of Argos. People screamed and scattered. Acrisius darted through the marketplace, knocking over baskets of figs and clay pots. Children yelped and fled. Perseus emerged moments later. He did not run. He walked, steady, calm, unwavering. People parted before him like water retreating from a ship's bow. There is no need for this, he called. I am not your enemy. But Acrisius did not hear him. Panic drowned all reason. The king reached the outskirts of Argos, a wide green field where an athletic contest was underway. Competitors threw discus stones in great arcs, cheered by a crowd gathered on the grass. Acrisius stumbled into the field, desperate and disoriented. The crowd went silent. A stone, freshly thrown, flew wide from a competitor's grip. It spun end over end, glinting in the sun. Acrisius turned. Perseus burst through the crowd. Grandfather, look out! The discus struck Acrisius in the temple. He fell instantly. The field fell silent, as though the very sky held its breath. Perseus dropped to his knees beside him. Acrisius's eyes fluttered. Blood dripped onto the grass. Perseus whispered, voice breaking, I never meant... Acrisius met his gaze, and for the first time, there was no fear, only understanding. Fate, he whispered, breath shallow. Cannot be outrun. His chest rose once more, then fell. The king of Argos was dead, killed not by a blade, not by vengeance, but by chance, or by destiny fulfilling itself through the gentlest possible hand. Perseus bowed his head, grief carving heavy lines across his face. He had tried to avert the prophecy. He had offered peace. He had done everything except run from destiny. And still the prophecy had come to pass, not through malice, but through the inevitability of fate. The people of Argos watched in stunned silence. At last, an elder stepped forward. Perseus, you did not kill him. Fate did. Another followed. The prophecy was stronger than fear. You are innocent. Then a third. What will you do now? Perseus rose slowly. I will honor him, he said. Not for his choices, but for the blood we shared. He ordered Acrisius buried with respect, and the city obeyed. For the first time in decades, Argos felt free of the heavy shroud of fear its king had cast. When the rites were complete, the council approached Perseus. The throne is yours, they said, by blood and lineage. Perseus looked toward the horizon, where the sea glimmered faintly. Argos deserves a king, he said, but not one born for wandering. He placed a hand upon the shoulder of Megapenthes, a noble and just man who had long served the city. Let him rule. The crowd murmured approval. Perseus smiled faintly. My place is not on a throne, he said, My place is where fate calls." He raised the kibisis. "And now I must return Medusa's head to Athena." He stepped away from the city he had freed, not by sword, but by truth. A truth he had never sought, yet could no longer deny. He was a hero touched by the gods, bound by destiny, shaped by choices and chance alike, and his story was far from finished. Perseus left Argos with a heart heavy from the passing of his grandfather, not out of affection for the man, but from the burden of having witnessed destiny unfold in its most unforgiving form. He had not been the instrument of Acrisius's death. Fate itself had found a way. Yet guilt clung to him like sea mist clings to the hull of a ship, and he knew his task was still unfinished. Medusa's head remained in the kibisis at his side, an artifact of unimaginable power that must be placed in Athena's hands alone. But the path to return it was not a straight line. Heroes do not walk straight lines. They walk into storms. They walk into cries for help. They walk into the arms of destiny. Perseus soared south and east along the coastline, following directions whispered by Hermes. The sandals carried him across sapphire waters and white-tipped waves, while seabirds called overhead and dolphins leapt beneath him, curious about the man who walked in the sky. By the third day, his path carried him toward the far reaches of Ethiopia, a land of warm winds and sun-gold deserts, of lush river valleys and towering temples. The coastline glittered like bronze beneath the blazing sun. But something was wrong. Even before he reached the shore, Perseus saw smoke rising from scattered villages. He saw people huddled in fear. He felt the tremor of something enormous shifting beneath the sea. A sound like distant thunder reached his ears, the cries of a kingdom in peril, the cries that always find heroes. Perseus angled downward. The city of Saphine lay sprawled along the cliffs, its markets bustling, its walls carved from pale stone. But today the people were not trading, laughing, or living their lives. They crowded along the shore, eyes fixed on the sea with terror etched upon every face. Perseus landed on a high outcropping, slipping into the throng unnoticed. The king and queen of the land stood on a balcony overlooking the sea, regal, desperate figures adorned in gold and purple. Their names, Perseus would soon learn, were Cepheus and Cassiopeia. Cassiopeia, tall and regal with dark hair braided in gold, was striking in her beauty. But her eyes were full of arrogance and fear. Perseus overheard whispers among the people. She angered the sea nymphs. She boasted that Andromeda was more beautiful than the Nereids, and Poseidon cursed us for her pride. Beside Cassiopeia stood a girl, slender, bound in heavy chains, wearing only a simple linen shift torn by the wind. Her beauty was luminous and unearthly, but it was not the boastful beauty her mother claimed. It was a quiet beauty, a gentle beauty, a sorrowful beauty. Her hair, dark as obsidian, cascaded down her shoulders. Her eyes, deep and wide, shone like polished onyx, but were clouded with terror. This was Andromeda, princess of Ethiopia. Perseus had heard no tale of her, yet destiny whispered her name into his bones. He stepped closer, and the crowd parted instinctively around him, silent. A deep, resonant roar vibrated through the air. The sea churned. Foam sprayed upward. A monstrous shadow moved beneath the waves. Perseus felt the sandals tremble. A herald called out loudly, voice cracking, To appease the wrath of Poseidon, Princess Andromeda is offered to the sea monster. May the gods have mercy. A cry of despair swept the crowd. Cepheus bowed his head. Cassiopeia wept but did not step forward. Fear had strangled reason. Perseus's heart hammered. No, not again. Not another innocent sacrificed because of a king's fear and a queen's pride. He pushed through the crowd and stepped into the open. "Stop!" he shouted, voice carrying across the cliffside. All eyes turned. Andromeda lifted her head. Perseus strode toward the king and queen, his cloak billowing, the aegis shield catching sunlight in a brilliant flare. Cepheus blinked. "Stranger, who are you to interrupt?" "I am Perseus, son of Danae," he declared, "slayer of Medusa." The shock rippled across the crowd like a wave. Cassiopeia's eyes widened. "Medusa? The Gorgon?" Perseus nodded. "And I will not allow an innocent girl to die for the vanity of a queen." Cassiopeia's face burned with shame and fury, but she said nothing. Cepheus lifted trembling hands. "We have no choice, young hero. Poseidon's wrath cannot be stopped." Another roar shook the sea. Perseus turned toward the churning waters. "Let me fight it." The king paled. "You do not understand. This is no ordinary beast. This is Cetus, the sea titan, born of ancient storms. No man can slay it." Perseus tightened his grip on his sword. "Then it is good," he said quietly, "that I am no ordinary man." Andromeda watched him with wide, astonished eyes. Perseus met her gaze, and something passed between them. Not prophecy, not destiny. Something softer, deeper. Recognition. As though they had been walking separate paths toward this single moment. Then the ground trembled beneath their feet. The sea exploded upward. The monster rose. Cetus was no mere creature. It was a mountain of living flesh, scales as thick as shields, teeth like rows of jagged spears. Its eyes glowed with ancient rage. Enormous fins slammed the waves, sending cascades of water soaring skyward. Its maw opened, revealing darkness deeper than the ocean floor. The crowd screamed. Soldiers dropped their spears, and Andromeda, bound to the cliff face by chains, braced herself for the end. Perseus shot into the sky. The winged sandals carried him upward in a blur of motion. Wind roared around him. Salt water stung his eyes. Cetus surged forward, jaws snapping. Perseus dodged left, then right, weaving through the monster's attacks. Soldiers gasped. Children pointed. The king and queen stared in awe, and Andromeda. She watched with hope blooming in her chest. Perseus dove sharply, blade drawn. He struck at the beast's neck, but the harp sword glanced off its scales with a shower of sparks. The monster roared, enraged. It lunged, nearly catching Perseus in its fangs. He soared upward again, breath ragged. The beast's hide was too thick. He could not pierce it, unless his hand brushed against the kibisis. Athena's voice echoed in his memory. Use the head only when purpose demands it. A monster threatening an innocent. A kingdom trembling in fear. A curse born of a goddess's wrath. Yes, purpose demanded it. Perseus circled above the beast, rising high into the sunlight. Then he descended, fast as a falling star. "Shield your eyes!" he shouted to the crowd. He whipped open the kibisis. The head of Medusa emerged. Even severed, her face carried terrible power. Her serpents hung motionless, but her eyes, glowing with the last echo of a curse, unleashed a silent scream of petrification. Cetus roared in fury. Its body stiffened, its muscles locked, its eyes froze mid-snarl. Then the freezing spread, across its scales, through its fins, down to its bones. In moments, the Titan was stone, a massive statue of a creature that had once terrorized kingdoms, now trapped forever in the posture of rage. The sea shifted around the immobile colossus. The waves calmed. Silence fell. Then a cry rose from the shore, a cheer so powerful it shook the cliffs. Perseus! Perseus! He saved the princess! He saved us all! Perseus lowered Medusa's head back into the bag and sealed it carefully. He descended, landing gently beside Andromeda. Her eyes glistened with tears. Perseus moved to break her chains with the harp sword. The metal snapped like twigs beneath its divine edge. As the shackles fell, Andromeda stumbled forward, and Perseus caught her. Their eyes met again, closer now, clearer. Her lips parted. You saved my life. Perseus smiled softly. I could not do otherwise. She blushed, lowering her gaze, but her fingers lingered on his arm. Cepheus approached, trembling with emotion. Hero, he said, voice shaking. Our kingdom owes you a debt beyond imagining. If there is anything you asked for, it is yours. Perseus glanced at Andromeda, whose gaze flicked back to his, full of hope and fear, and something blooming beneath it. He looked back to the king. If she is willing, I ask for Andromeda's hand. A hush fell. Andromeda inhaled sharply, not in fear, but in surprise that lit her eyes like dawn breaking. Cepheus looked to his daughter. Andromeda? She stepped forward, voice trembling. I give my heart freely. Cassiopeia stiffened in indignation, but said nothing. Her pride had brought destruction. She would not deny salvation. Cepheus smiled and placed his daughter's hand in Perseus's. A hero such as you deserves no less. The crowd cheered once more, and Perseus felt something warm unfurl in his chest, a feeling different from victory, different from destiny, a feeling of belonging, of love. The wedding was held that night in the palace courtyard, beneath lanterns strung like stars across the sky. Musicians played melodies of joy, children danced, warriors raised their cups in toast. The air smelled of spices and desert flowers. Andromeda stood beside Perseus in a gown woven of gold-threaded linen, her hair adorned with pearls from the deep sea. Perseus wore new armor gifted by the king, light, radiant, fit for a hero. Yet he kept the sandals, the shield, the sword, and the kibisis close. As they exchanged vows, Perseus felt a peace he had never known. The world, for a fleeting moment, felt right. But deep within him, he knew peace would not last. Destiny still tugged at his path. He still owed Athena the Gorgon's head. He still had worlds to cross and a future to carve. But he would not face that future alone. When the ceremony ended, Andromeda took his hand, squeezing it gently. You came to save me, she whispered. And now, wherever you go, I will follow. Perseus looked at her with a heart full and steady. Then let us walk destiny together. Above them, constellations shimmered in the night sky. Soon one of them would bear her name, Andromeda, and beside her, Perseus. For their story had only just begun. The kingdom of Ethiopia celebrated for days after the fall of Cetus. Fires blazed on the cliffs. Musicians filled the air with bright rhythms. Perfumes of jasmine and myrrh drifted through the markets, where people spoke the name Perseus with awe, reverence, and gratitude. For the first time in many months, laughter replaced fear. But Perseus, even in joy, carried the weight of unfinished duty. He watched the revelry with Andromeda at his side, her hand warm in his, her smile lighting the night more brightly than the lantern swaying overhead. Yet his finger brushed from time to time against the sealed kibisis that hung at his belt, and the reminder of what it held stirred unease within him. Medusa's head, the last remnant of a cursed soul, a tool of both power and tragedy. He had saved a kingdom with it, but he had promised to return it, not to a king, not to a mortal, to Athena. And when gods waited, mortals delayed at their peril. On the morning after his wedding feast, Perseus walked with Andromeda along the quiet shoreline, far from the crowds still sleeping off their celebrations. The sun had just risen, turning the waves to gold. Seabirds dipped in the foam, and the air carried the scent of warm sand and salt. Andromeda leaned lightly against him. "You haven't slept," she said softly. Perseus hesitated, then exhaled. "No, I've been thinking. Of your home? Of my duty." She nodded, understanding immediately. Though they had known each other only a short time, she seemed to read him with effortless intuition. "The gods helped you," she said, "and now you must help them." "Not help," Perseus corrected. "Obey." Andromeda touched the kibisis at his side, her fingers resting gently against the leather. "Will you go alone?" "I don't know," he admitted. "Athena has guided my path since the beginning. I am bound to honor the promise I made. And yet," he turned to her, "I would not leave you so soon." A soft smile curved her lips. "Do you think I would let you?" Before Perseus could speak, a sudden cool breeze swept across the shore, sharp, unnatural, shimmering with the faint echo of divine presence. Andromeda stiffened. Perseus turned. A figure stepped out of the air itself, as though materializing from the horizon. Silver armor gleamed. A spear shimmered like starlight. A golden owl perched on her shoulder, head crowned with a crested helm. Athena. The goddess's gaze fixed upon the couple with unreadable calm. Her presence filled the beach like a rising tide. Vast, unstoppable, awe-inspiring. Andromeda instinctively dipped into a bow, but Athena lifted a hand. "Rise, daughter of Zephine." Perseus chose well. Andromeda straightened, cheeks flushed. Perseus stepped forward. "Lady Athena." "You have done as I expected," the goddess said, cutting him off with gentle authority. "Medusa's head is yours no longer. It is time." The kibisis seemed to tremble at her words. Perseus placed a protective hand over it. "I understand." Athena's gaze sharpened. "Do you?" Her tone was soft, but beneath it, Perseus heard a warning, a reminder of the gulf between mortal and divine. "Medusa was cursed unjustly," Athena said. "Her suffering was long, and her power, though born of tragedy, remains potent. In the wrong hands, it can unmake kingdoms. Even Olympians tread carefully around it." Perseus nodded. "I used it only to save Andromeda. And to end a tyrant," Athena added. "Purposeful choices, wise ones, but wisdom must not end here." She extended a hand. The head. Perseus loosened the drawstring, feeling the familiar chill pulse from within. He drew the kibisis toward her, but before he relinquished it completely, Athena spoke again. "Know this, Perseus. The gods helped you not because of your lineage alone, but because you acted with courage and compassion. You showed mercy to Medusa at her death. You spared your grandfather when fear could have driven you to vengeance. You defended the innocent." Her eyes softened. These choices make a hero worthy of Olympus. Perseus bowed his head. Thank you. Athena took the bag. When her fingers brushed it, the leather shimmered, the ancient magic inside stirring in recognition. I will set this power where none may misuse it, she said. Medusa's head will become my sigil, a warning to foes, a shield for the just. Andromeda watched silently as Athena attached the kibisis to her belt. What will become of her? The princess asked softly. Athena paused. Her curse ends, her suffering ends, and in a way she will protect more lives than she ever harmed. The goddess stepped back. Perseus felt a pang, not regret, but solemn respect. Medusa's death had never been a triumph. It had been an act of mercy and necessity, entwined in the tragic tapestry of divine wrath. Athena turned her gaze to Andromeda. And you, she said, have joined yourself to a man the fates watch closely. Your life will not be simple. Your path will not be quiet. Andromeda straightened. I am not afraid. Athena studied her for a long moment, then nodded. You will do well. She lifted her spear, letting sunlight catch upon its blade. Now hear me both, she said. Your fates are not fully written. Perseus, your deeds echo through Olympus. There are those who favor you, and those who envy you. Perseus tensed. The gods are never of one mind, Athena finished, but you are under my protection. Harm will not find you easily. She stepped forward and placed a steady hand on his shoulder. You have more to accomplish. You will father a great line. Your blood will shape kingdoms yet unimagined. The future waits. He swallowed. Then tell me what comes next. Athena's eyes glimmered. That hero you must discover for yourself. She stepped back, raising her spear skyward. Wind surged, sand swirled, the air shimmered, and Athena vanished, leaving the scent of olive leaves and steel in her wake. Perseus and Andromeda stood in silence for a long moment, the waves washing over their feet. At last, Andromeda spoke softly. She is formidable. Perseus let out a long breath. She saved me more than once. And now you have saved many, Andromeda said, including me. Perseus looked at her. This woman he had freed, married, and come to love with a depth both fierce and unexpected. Athena was right, he murmured. My path is not over, but I'm no longer walking it alone. Andromeda smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. Then where do we go next? Perseus looked out across the water. He thought of the home he left behind, of Dictys, of Seriphos, of his mother's gentle smile. He thought of lands he had never seen, of kingdoms in need, of the future Athena hinted at. For now, he said, we return to Seriphos. My mother must know I am safe, and Polydectes' fall must be answered with peace, not chaos. And after that? Andromeda asked. Perseus looked at her, his eyes bright. Wherever destiny calls us. Their journey began the next day. Cepheus and Cassiopeia showered them with gifts, fine linens, gold, steeds adorned in silver harnesses. But Perseus accepted only what they needed. To live simply, he said, is to live freely. Andromeda smiled at this. She admired his heart far more than any material wealth. As they rode from the palace toward the desert, the city gathered to bid farewell to their saviors. Flowers showered from balconies. Musicians played melodies of triumph and gratitude. Children ran alongside their horses until the gates came into view. Cepheus clasped Perseus's arm. "You have a home here always." Cassiopeia bowed her head. "And my repentance." Perseus bowed in return. "May your pride never again cost your kingdom." Cassiopeia winced, but nodded. Then Andromeda embraced her parents tightly, tears glistening in her eyes. "We will return," she promised. Cepheus kissed her forehead. "With children, I hope." Andromeda turned crimson, and Perseus laughed. As they set off into the desert, the cheers of Ethiopia faded behind them. The dunes stretched out ahead, golden waves beneath an unclouded sky. Andromeda rode beside Perseus, her hair fluttering in the warm wind. "What are you thinking?" she asked. He smiled. "That for the first time in my life, I am not running toward danger. I am running toward home." Andromeda reached out, intertwining her fingers with his. "Then let us go home together." They continued toward the horizon, toward Seriphos, toward family, toward future trials. But above them, unseen by mortal eyes, constellations shifted ever so slightly. For heroes cast long shadows across the sky. For love changes the course of fate. And for Perseus and Andromeda, destiny had begun weaving the next chapter. Their story was not ending, it was ascending. The journey from Ethiopia back to Seriphos carried Perseus and Andromeda through lands both familiar and strange, across deserts that shimmered like molten gold, and along coastlines where the sea whispered ancient secrets. Though their adventure had already carved its mark into the world, through slain Gorgons, defeated sea monsters, fallen tyrants, their travels were peaceful for the first time. And peace, to a hero, feels like a fragile dream. They cherished it while it lasted. At night, they camped beneath stars that seemed to burn more brightly since Athena's visit. Andromeda would fall asleep, curled beside Perseus, her head resting on his shoulder, while he watched the sky in silence. Often he found his gaze pulled to a cluster of stars forming a crooked bow, or a faint line that arched like a celestial serpent, or three bright points arranged like a crown. One night, as a breeze swept over the dunes, Andromeda stirred awake. "You're not sleeping again," she murmured, blinking softly. Perseus smiled faintly. "I like watching the constellations." "And what do they tell you?" He exhaled. "That every story becomes larger than the person who lived it." Andromeda wrapped a blanket tighter around them. "Is that frightening?" Perseus thought for a moment. "Only if you forget who you truly are." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "Then I will remind you." Her voice warmed him more than any fire. When they reached Seriphos, the island welcomed them with warmth that tasted like home. Children ran from the shore shouting Perseus's name. Fishermen laid down their nets to wave. Even the sea seemed calmer. Danae met them at the base of the cliffs, her face radiant with joy. She embraced her son first, clinging to him as though afraid he might dissolve into mist. "My brave boy," she whispered. "You came back." "I always would," Perseus murmured, burying his face against her hair. Then she turned to Andromeda, and tears welled again. Not of sorrow this time, but of wonder. "You are truly beautiful," Danae breathed. "No wonder Poseidon sought to claim you, and no wonder my son defied him." Andromeda flushed. "I am honored to meet the woman who raised a hero." They embraced like mother and daughter, naturally, warmly, as though they had been waiting to meet for years. Dictys arrived moments later, laughing harder than Perseus had ever seen him. "You married a princess," he said, clapping Perseus on the back. "You should have told me you were bringing royalty home. I'd have cleaned my nets." Perseus grinned. "She doesn't seem to mind." Dictys winked at Andromeda. "If you can love this fool, you'll do well here." Andromeda laughed, her laughter like bells in the wind, and Perseus felt that no throne, no empire, no divine favor could compare to this moment. Life on Seriphos returned to peace. Dictys ruled as a just and humble king. Danae lived freely for the first time since her youth, tending gardens, singing old Argive songs, welcoming every villager who visited her door. Andromeda learned the island's customs, walked barefoot along the shore, and helped fishermen's wives mend sails or weave linen. Perseus spent his days hunting, training young boys to defend themselves, and helping rebuild the parts of the village Polydectes had neglected. The harp sword hung by their hearth, a reminder of past battles. The winged sandals rested in a carved wooden box. The cap of Hades lay wrapped in linen, its uncanny silence sealed away. And one object was missing entirely: Medusa's head, now in the hands of Athena. For a time, everything felt perfect. But perfection in mortal life is fleeting. Years passed. Perseus and Andromeda had children, tall, bright-eyed sons who ran freely across the rocky hills and sandy beaches. Danae adored her grandchildren. Dictys spoiled them with carved toys and stories of the sea. Perseus felt content. Yet destiny, like a shadow cast by a moving torch, always stretches, always shifts, and the life of a hero is never entirely free of its pull. One morning, as Perseus walked along the cliffs, he felt a familiar pressure in the air, subtle but unmistakable, a presence. "Perseus." He turned. A woman stood on the rocks, cloaked in twilight blue fabric that fluttered in the sea breeze. Her hair was long and gold, her eyes piercing. "Athena." Perseus bowed. "My goddess." "I have come with news," Athena said. "Medusa's head serves me well. It protects my temple, inspires fear in unjust hearts, and reminds the gods of the consequences of their cruelty." Perseus nodded. "I hoped it would find purpose." "It did," she said, "because you gave it with a pure heart." She stepped closer. "Your life, Perseus, has reached its quiet years. You have accomplished great deeds. You have conquered both monsters and fate. You have built a family." Perseus frowned. "Then why have you come?" Athena's expression softened. "Because heroes do not fade, they transform." The wind seemed to still. "What do you mean?" "You will not die forgotten," Athena said. "Your name will not drift into silence. The gods have chosen to honor you, and Andromeda, in a way mortals seldom receive." Perseus swallowed. "What honor?" Athena lifted her hand and pointed to the sky. The clouds parted. Stars gleamed brighter. "Constellations," she said. "Eternal thrones among the heavens. Places where your stories will glow long after cities fall to dust, long after temples crumble." Perseus stared upward, awe stirring in his chest. One cluster of stars began to shimmer faintly, then another, and another. "You will become eternal," Athena continued. "Andromeda too. Your line will shape kingdoms. Your children's children will build dynasties. But you, your essence, will rise. Perseus felt both humbled and frightened. "Is it time already?" Athena shook her head. "Not yet. The fates have decided you will live long enough to see your sons grow, your mother age peacefully, your people prosper. But this world is not the end of you." She touched his shoulder. "It is the beginning of timelessness." The goddess stepped back. "Farewell for now, hero. When I return, it will be to guide you beyond mortality." She vanished in a shimmer of starlight. Perseus stood alone on the cliff, staring at the sky, where faint new constellations flickered like whispers of the future. Years continued to pass. Danae grew old, her hair silver, her hands soft and wrinkled. When she passed away in her sleep, Perseus wept with a quiet grief that echoed across the sea. He built her a shrine overlooking the water, a place of peace, not sorrow. Dictys ruled until his final days, beloved by all. When he died, the people built a stone marker carved with the words, "A king not by birth, but by heart." Perseus and Andromeda grew older together. Their children became men. Some stayed on Seriphos. Others sailed beyond the horizon to build new cities. Their names would become the roots of lineages that touched distant lands, Macedon, Mycenae, and beyond. Perseus lived long enough to see his first grandchild born. He held the tiny boy with trembling hands, tears slipping down his cheeks. "His name?" Andromeda asked, smiling. Perseus whispered, "Danaus." Andromeda kissed his cheek. They lived peacefully for many years more. But at last, Athena returned. She came at sunset, appearing on the same cliffs where she had once spoken of constellations. Perseus stood waiting, Andromeda beside him, her hand in his. "It is time," Athena said gently. Perseus nodded. Andromeda's eyes shimmered with both sadness and serenity. She squeezed his hand. "We are ready." Athena extended her arms. "Come, your stories will live beyond the mortal world." A warm wind rose. The sea shimmered. The horizon trembled. Perseus felt his body lighten, as though each breath unbound him further from the earth. Andromeda lifted beside him, her hair flowing like liquid night. They rose slowly, not dying but ascending. Athena's voice echoed like a chord of starlight. "Look to the sky, Perseus." He lifted his eyes. The stars rearranged themselves in a radiant arc. A warrior holding a curved blade. A woman bound yet shining. A serpent coiling across the heavens. A sea monster frozen in eternal roar. Perseus, Andromeda, Medusa's mark, Cetus. Their story, immortalized. Their love, eternal. Their fates, written in light. Athena's voice faded into the wind. "Rise, hero. Rise, beloved daughter of Ethiopia. Rise into legend." And Perseus took Andromeda's hand. Together, glowing with celestial fire, they ascended into the sky, becoming constellations that would guide sailors, inspire poets, and remind humanity of the hero who slew a Gorgon, saved a kingdom, defied prophecy, and found love along the edge of destiny. And thus ends the tale of Perseus and Medusa, a story written first in blood and shadow, and finally in stars.